welcome to Board Games with Niramas. I'm Joseph and I'm here today with Draco, and we are going to get into another one of these top 10 lists, because now it's time for the top 10 games to bring to a nuclear shelter. It sounds dramatic, of course, but for some reason, you know, world politics and governments and all that, they started a nuclear war in the scenario, and we are going to go to the nuclear shelter. Of course, we're going to bring some games because we don't know how long we will be there. I mean, think about Fallout, right? We might be there for the rest of our lives or for generations to come. So, and the government, you know, they see this. There's a lot of board gamers out there. They want to bring all their collections. They realize this is not going to work. So they put out a sort of regulation. You can only bring your top 10 games with you to the shelter because, you know, there's limited space. But they also want to be kind of nice, you know, the government, they feel like, okay, these board gamers, they really love their games. So they said, okay, you can bring 10 games, but you can also include all expansions for them. So it's time to, you know, think about 10 games, talk about 10 games that I would bring to that nuclear shelter, including all their expansions, of course. Otherwise, this list would be too hard to make. So let's get going with number 10. So my number 10 game that I would bring to the nuclear shelter to play for years to come, and you know, in this list I had to consider different player counts because there's going to be, you know, a bunch of people down there in the shelter with me, right? And I also had to consider different kinds of games. So Seven Wonders is my number 10 pick because I think, you know, this is a good gateway as well. I mean, you don't really need a gateway in the shelter because people are going to have so much time they're going to get into whatever games you bring, but still, we could start off by playing this. This, you know, ratio-wise in the population, there's going to be a bunch of people there that don't play board games. So, Seven Wonders is a good one, and it's a fun game to play over and over because you have so much variation with the cards coming in different orders. You draw off the cards. You have different civilizations that you play. Of course, you have. I haven't played the Babel expansion yet. I want to do that, but we have, you know, leaders and cities. And the Armada, the latest expansion, that brings a lot of replayability to the game. So as you can see here, this is my run through with Draco, where I played only with the leaders expansion. You can go check that out if you haven't seen it, where I explain the game. It's a drafting game, really fun, and this is my number 10 pick to bring to the shelter to just play and play and play for years to come. Number 9 is sort of quite the opposite, the other one there, but this is for 2 players only. It's Keyforge. I couldn't imagine being without Keyforge all those years, or perhaps the rest of my life. So I do want to bring Keyforge. You can play 2 players, but you can set up little tournaments down in the bunker, right? You can have. I mean, I'm going to bring all my 50+ decks. We could, you know, play tournaments. We could play sort of different formats, like sealed, basically, where, you know, people just grab a random deck. And we could keep doing this for quite a while. Of course, it's, you know, in time, it would be really sad to sit down there in the shelter or the bunker and feel like, wow, I wanted the next set for Keyforge. It's never gonna come because, you know, Fantasy Flight and the rest of the world is, you know, wiped out. But yeah, it would still be a really fun game for a long time. And you could play this a bunch, and then you could put it aside, play some other games, and you could pick this up later on and play it again, because there's so many cards, so much variation. So Keyforge is my number 9. And of course, number 8, you want to have a racing game in the bunker as well. And my favorite racing game of all time is Automobiles. It's just so great racing game. There's a lot of replayability in this one as well, because you switch up the cards so the cubes get different meaning. Basically what this is a sort of cube builder. It's a deck builder, but with a bag. It's a bag builder, it's called. So you put these cubes in your bag, you pull a certain amount out, and then you use them to race around these tracks. And I mean, in that shelter, you have a lot of time, so you can do, you know, the full game, which I never played with, like, what is it, like 7 laps or something, or 5 laps. It takes a long time, but hey, we got time in the bunker, right? So Automobiles, yeah, I could play that a lot more, and I would like to bring it with me to have for years to come and just, you know, race. And you can also be a lot of players in this one, so that's a good thing as well. Is it 6, I think, or 5? So that's a good thing for a game that you want to have with you to the bunker. So that is Automobiles, and now let's head to the next one. And number 7, speaking of deck builders, you do want to have a deck builder with you. And Dominion is going to be perfect for this setting, because Dominion, I don't have a video of it sadly yet, but Dominion here on Board Game Geek, this is the sort of, you know, the sort of founder of deck building, really, what made deck building popular in the board gaming community. And since that, there's been, I don't know how many. There's been so many expansions. It's just crazy. It's, you know, lots and lots of expansions, pages of expansions, and with all these new mechanisms brought in, with all these new cards. Wow, there's so much replayability in this one, so it's crazy. I mean, we could play this for years, you know, literally for years, without getting bored, or at least, you know, you could. You still get, you will get new fresh cards because you will bring all those expansions. And I haven't played all of them yet myself either. I played like 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. But Dominion is definitely one that I would bring with me to play for years to come. And this is also a really quick, you know, easy game to get into, but there's so much strategy involved when you look at those cards out there and trying to figure out what's the best strategy to do this game, because that will vary from game to game. There's no theme in this one though, but who cares in the nuclear shelter, right? We just want to have a good fun time with Dominion. So that's my number 7. Let's head to number 6. So number 6 is a big, heavy game. It takes a long time. Civilization, the board game. One of my favorite games, but I never get to play it because it's so huge and it takes a long time. But in the nuclear shelter, we will have that time, right? So we can really dive into this game and play it on 2 or 3 or 4 players, with both the expansions, of course. We can, you know, play all these different civilizations that gives us special powers. There's different tactics to follow, strategies to follow, and tactics involved. Well, depending on what the other players do, you might switch, you might go for a culture win, but then certain opportunity rises where you can win by military. You might purchase that instead and go for that. So yeah, just a lovely game. I really enjoy Civilization, the board game, a lot. It really reminds me of Civilization on the PC, but I guess we can't play PC games down there for some reason. You know, like, you know, we have to save power and so on, maybe. So yeah, Civilization, the board game, is the way to go, and that's why it's my number 6. And my number 5 is another one of these sort of huge games that I really like, but I never get to play because, you know, it takes so much time and it's so fiddly to set everything up. And when you want to set it up, you want to play a bunch of games in a row. So Star Wars Imperial Assault. This is a great Star Wars game. Tactical combat on this grid map, and so much theme involved. You have this campaign that you can play that there's a bunch of campaigns by now with all the expansions. There's like 5 expansions. Brings so much to the game, so many characters from the movies that you will recognize, and so much theme and you know, surprises showing up. One player will be the Empire and have all the information, and the other players are the rebels and trying to accomplish different objectives. It could be to wipe out the enemy, but it could also be to go to a computer and hack it and get information from the Empire and so on. And yeah, I just love this game so much, and it would be perfect in that nuclear shelter because we would have so much time and so many scenarios to play. And once we played all those campaigns, we can still play it as a skirmish game because it's like 2 games in the same box. The skirmish game you can play over and over, and you can compete, you can make tournaments in it, you can... Wow, there's so much replayability in this one, and it takes so much time, and you know, that's kind of sad because that's why I never get to play it. But in this scenario, we have a lot of time, so we would play Star Wars Imperial Assault. And my number 4 might come as a surprise to some of you because it's not that high on my top 100 of all time, but I wanted to have a social deduction game in here because that could be fun. A lot of meta building up as you keep playing this over the years in that bunker. And of course, Secret Hitler was something I thought about because it's a really good... I think that's my favorite social deduction game if you're just going to play like a night, you know, an evening or a few times. But if you're going to keep playing it over and over and over again, I think Secret Hitler is... I don't know. I think Deception, Murder in Hong Kong is better than. Because in this one, you're going to... It's a sort of clue. You can find out who's the killer and how did they do the murder and all that. But there's a twists and turns in this one. There's really interesting roles where sort of one is like sort of the witness that knows some information, but you can't reveal that you're the witness. There's so much interesting stuff in this one, and I would like to play it more actually. Anyhow, even if there's no nuclear war, which I hope there isn't. But Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, really good game. I don't know if there's that much to show you here. It's sort of a... Let's see if maybe this picture here. Yeah, it's just a component. There's a lot of these like different... There's a lot of replayability in this one because, you know, it's going to be so much variation, and you can take turns who is the murderer and all that. And yeah, it's just a fun game, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. And my number 3 game to bring to the nuclear shelter is Spirit Island. Here we have some cooperative gaming. I thought about this as well. We need some cooperative gaming, and you know, this one is my favorite cooperative game, I think. Even though I like it as solo as well, but it's even better with 2 or 3 human players, of course. You can play it up to 4 players, but it gets more and more complex, which is not a problem because we're in the shelter, right? We have years to come to play games, so we can learn this one and get into it, even if it's complicated and complex and there's a lot of things going on. And I really like the theme of this one as well. You're defending this island from the invaders. You're trying to help the natives of the island to survive, and you are the spirits of the island. And there's a bunch of different spirits, and they all combine together in different ways. And with the expansions, wow, there's a lot of replayability in this one. There's a lot to do. You can play this a bunch of times and still have fun with it and try to get better and better. You can increase the difficulty level. Wow, there's so much to do in this game, and all these cards combo in such a nice way. And it's a hand management game, basically, in its core, where you have your hand of cards and you play something, but then it's lost until you spend a whole action to pick it up again. So doing that hand management can be really tricky, and especially as you need to play a certain card that will combo off of the other player's cards in a certain way, because you have fast powers and slow powers, and you're trying to make them fast if you can, because then you can do things before the invaders get to do their thing. So, and you will see what they will do. So there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of strategizing going on. I just love Spirit Island. It would be a perfect fit for playing for years to come. And my number 2, no surprise, this is my number 2 all time as well. Gaia Project. It's just such a great Euro game, such a fantastic game in terms of mechanisms, in terms of the feeling you get in the game. So satisfactory when you complete things, you do this, that leads to that, and so on. And this is a quite heavy game as well. It would be a good fit for playing when you have a lot of time on to kill, basically. And there's a bunch of different factions or races that you could be playing, different aliens and all that. So, I mean, you can explore this game for quite a while. And you have all that time, you can really dive deep into it and, you know, really try, you know, if you were the same people, the same group sitting there in the shelter playing this over and over, you would become good at it and will be creating some sort of like a meta game as well on you know, how the other players like to act, and wow, there's so much in this game. There's so much to explore, and there's a good solo version as well. So of Toma here, as I play on this video, go check that out if you haven't, because it was really fun playing the solo game. I have a video of it with Draco as well, so I show you the multiplayer game. But yeah, this is such a good game. Gaia Project, such an amazing game, and you know, it doesn't hurt that I have my name on the side of the box as well, because I was in the beta testing. That's totally aside the game. The game is awesome as it is. So let's head to my number 1. And my number 1, no surprise here. There's no way I'm gonna leave this game at home when I rush over to that bunker to stay alive for years to come, playing Terraforming Mars over and over again. I could do that. I do that anyway, so I could do that in that bunker. And you can play it solo. It's great solo. It's great on 2 players. It's best on 3 players. It's good on 4 players, and it's okay on 5 players, even if I'm not a big fan. But maybe you can. That's the scenario where I could actually play Terraforming Mars on 5 players if we were sitting in that shelter, because you know, we have a lot of time to kill. It doesn't mean that much that there's a lot of downtime in that situation. On the other hand, we don't know when we will get out of the bunker, right? So maybe we do want to be able to play as many games as possible, and you know, before we get out. I don't know. But yeah, Terraforming Mars, such a great game. Right, this video I play solo with the Prelude expansion. After that, we also have gotten the Colonies expansion. So there's a bunch of Terraforming Mars videos on the channel. If you haven't seen them already, you can just, you know, click the little eye up in the corner and go check them all out on the playlist there. And yeah, this game is so good, and there's so much replayability. There's 30 different corporations. Wow, you could play this game for years without getting bored, really, because I mean, there's like, what is it, 370 something cards, so there's so many combinations coming up, and you play with the draft, of course, if you play multiplayer. Wow, just you know, this one, I think in total these 10 games here, I mean, there's arguments to be made. There's some of them we could have been switched out for others and so on, but I tried to get like a cooperative game in there, and you know, social deduction and all that, those different types of styles of games as well. Do you agree? Is there a game that you think you or let me put it this way, what game would you not leave at home when you had to rush over to that bunker? Tell me in the comment section down here, and let me know what your favorite games are as well. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video as well if you did like it, and have a great evening or morning or whenever you're watching. Take care. Bye bye.
Do you want to keep this little dragon this happy all day long? Then like the video. Board Games with Niramas is sponsored by Alara Games in Sweden.